Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and today I'm speaking with Tiger Brown. He's the managing director of Astron Corporation. ASX code is ATR. Now, they've got the Donald Rare Earths and Mineral Sands projects in Victoria. Now, I'm not going to steal all his thunder, but this is a really exciting time for Astron Corporation because they're not an overnight success. They've done the work, they've put the foundation in, and right now is a fabulous time for the company. Tiger, thanks so much for joining me on Small Caps today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, before I get started, I have to ask the question, hope you don't mind. Tiger is a fantastic first name. Did your parents, were they golfers? Did they love Tiger Woods?
Yeah, I think Tiger Woods was a bit more in style back then, but he is making a comeback, so it's interesting.
Do you play golf?
I used to, but not anymore. I think my dad was quite strict in the sense that when I was 13, we weren't allowed to use trundlers and we had to carry our bags around the golf course.
Quite right.
That got a bit tiring, so I gave it up.
And now you're fully immersed in Astron Corporation. It's probably not the time to go and play 18 holes of golf right now.
No, of course, absolutely not.
Well, look, this is the first time you and I have spoken on Small Caps. Can you just give us a brief overview of the Donald project down there in Victoria?
Yeah, so the Donald project's located 300 kilometres northwest of Melbourne in the Wimmera region of Victoria. Specifically, we believe the Donald project is a unique opportunity in three key aspects. Firstly, its size and scale. It is the largest zircon resource in the world in terms of in situ and contained zircon, and it is top 5 in terms of rare earth elements contained within the deposit outside of China. Secondly, its advanced stage of development. We're the only project and critical minerals project in Victoria that has the benefit of a granted mining license, positively assessed environmental effects statement, and federal EPBC licenses and cultural heritage management plan already in place. And thirdly, we're mineral sands project that's able to produce 2 products, both in the mineral sands space and a rare earths product separately. And we're expected to come into production at a time when there's a supply deficit. And in the short term and medium term market outlooks are positive in that regard.
Okay, we'll get into the markets in a moment, but Astron Corporation, your background or the background of the company, which I believe was started by your dad, was very much involved in, I guess, the trading of zircon. Is that correct?
Yeah, Astron was initially started in 1979 in what was a jack of all trades mining exploration company. We were listed on the ASX in 1983. But after that, we realised there was a niche market there in mineral sands trading. We produced or purchased materials from producers in South Africa, Western Australia and Canada and sold them into the Chinese market. At that time, the Chinese market was small, but over time, as the Chinese market grew, we grew. And then Astron went further downstream. So we weren't just a trader, but we became a processor of zircon into zircon chemicals such as ZOC, zirconium oxychloride, ZBC, zirconium basic carbonate, and fused zirconia. At one stage, we were the larger consumers of zircon, and that's when the opportunity came to buy the world's largest zircon deposit, and that's how we got our hands on the Donald deposit.
You still doing the trading and the other parts of the business, or are you focusing on Donald?
No, the trading business was eventually sold in 2009 to Imres, but we've kept Donald, recognising that one day the value will be delivered and we'll see it through to production and its true potential.
For those that don't know, Tiger, what's zircon used for? What's the market look like? Why is it such an important part?
Yeah, so zircon's used both in the ceramics industry and from a chemical perspective, in foundry and coating applications. On the ceramic side, in terms of everyone's bathrooms, tiles, vanities, those sets, the shine and the glaze, the shine comes from the zircon. On the chemical side, zirconium chemicals have a variety of different uses, but It is very corrosion resistant and used for paint for ships and so forth. So that's what zircon's predominantly used for.
Is the market growing? I think you alluded to the fact that this is a market that is needing more zircon, number one. And number two, two-part question. Second part is you said this is one of the largest deposits in the world. That's a big statement.
Yes. The market for zircon is growing. It has historically grown at GDP plus growth rates. TZMI, the leading market forecaster for mineral sands products, forecasts zircon to grow at 2.8% per annum over the next decade, whereas supply, on the other hand, is expected to deplete at 4.6% per annum over the next decade. I'm sure I'll go into that in a bit later. But going in terms of your second point, yes, Donald is the world's largest zircon resource. We use 1.2 million tonnes of zircon per year in the world today.
Okay.
Within the resource, the Donald project has 22.1 million tonnes of zircon.
Where's the rest of the zircon coming from at the moment?
Yes, so the market from the zircon perspective, it's been traditionally supplied by three major players: Iluka, Rio, and Tronox.
Okay.
More than 30% of the world's zircon comes from Iluka's Euclid Basin project historically, which is the Jacinth Ambrosia project. And that has had a 10-year lifespan when it started in 2009. As that 30% comes off, there's a market opportunity for projects such as ourselves to get in and to start producing. And in fact, we believe that the supply dynamics, it's critical for us as an emerging project to help supply, help the supply and demand balance.
Now, Tiger, I'm not a geologist by background. I don't fully understand the zircon market. The Donald project, is grade important? And if it is important, what sort of grades are you seeing at this 22.1 million? Are you moving a lot of dirt, or is it high grade? Is it important?
Yeah. So the Wimmera project, in terms of, it's slightly different than traditional strandline mineral sands projects. It's large in scale, it's wide, and it's extremely long. So by context, from the northern end of the deposit to the southern end, it's more than 60 kilometres.
Wow.
And from east to west, it's 10 kilometres at places and 5 kilometres throughout most of the deposit. The depositional history is slightly different as well. It's instead of sort of ancient riverbeds, which are what strandline deposits are, these are ancient seabeds, back deposited in the tertiary period, about 4.6 million years ago. As a result, instead of sort of focused mining, what strandline is, 125 metres to 500 metre deposits that you would mine very selectively, this is more akin to a bulk mining operation.
Okay.
So that's where the cost advantage comes in.
So it's more like, could I liken it to being like a quarry mining operation? You are literally just moving the dirt and processing it?
Yeah, basically it's a free dig operation. You could say that.
And let's talk about steps. Talk to us about what you achieved in 2022, because I'm talking to you now. Goodness me, I can't believe it. It's halfway through February. This is ridiculous. But anyway, what milestones did you achieve in 2022? And then let's look forward to, I guess, the value proposition going forward into 23.
Yeah, sorry, Kerry. I just want to take a step back to do a comparison with quarrying and so forth, because the rehabilitation practices for mineral sands mining is very different.
Okay.
For us, it's relatively low environmental impact mining. Whatever we dig up, we take out what we need, which is 5% of the dirt that we will eventually dig up, which is the ore zone. And then we put the rest right back into where we dig it up from. As a result of that, the farmland that we use, we can rehabilitate back to its original use within 3 to 5 years. So in effect, I know sustainable mining is a bit of a cliche term, but we can make mining operations sustainable in mineral sands.
You just, and we'll go on to the other bit in a minute, but you just mentioned the farmland.
Yeah, so the location of the project, we're located on cropland with low vegetation on it at the moment. And we've actually done a test pit where we've successfully rehabbed back into farmland, where the test pit demonstrated strong crop yields, alike those areas that wasn't actually dug up before in the test pit. In fact, a local councillor came up to me last year and said, I was trying to look for your test pit last year and I couldn't find it. Where was it? Walking around in the paddock. So I think that really helps us establish credibility with the local farming community that we work with, as well as with the regulators from a test pit perspective and rehabilitation. They know that they can get the farms back.
Do they get the farms back? And because sometimes when you when you do this sort of an operation, you can yield higher crops post rehab. Is that the same case with this?
Yeah, we've definitely seen that.
So it's of advantage to the farmers down there to work with you on this project.
Yeah, I think we've always spoken about mining and farming can go hand in hand. We provide a secondary source of income, especially not all years are good years. There's definitely been some tough years, and we provide that stable source of income to support towns that have been slowly dying and really appreciate reinvestment. And we're excited to help in that sense in terms of providing meaningful reinvestment back into the community that's needed it so much.
So my next question is, with the community down there, are they all supportive? Have you managed to get how many different farm holders are there, landholders down there, and are they all on board?
Yeah, so we've slowly accumulated land over our history as well from an Astron perspective. Over our project history, we've accumulated 1,450 hectares of land in the local area. So we are one of the larger landholders.
Okay.
But we are continuing to work with the local farmers, and we're lucky to have a positive relationship with the local shires and the local community, and we do not take that for granted. Recently, in November, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the local shire, Yarriambiack Shire, and to collaboratively work to maximise benefits for both the local community as well as to our shareholders.
Okay, so let's just go back to what we were talking about before, is the milestones achieved in 22?
Yeah. So, yeah, in early 2022, we undertook a drilling program specifically focused on the rare earth elements within the deposit. We know that we've got extensive monazite resource, but through our metallurgical test work, we discovered that we had significant xenotime. Monazite contains the light rare earths of neodymium and praseodymium. And whereas the heavy rare earths contains the heavy rare earth elements of dysprosium and terbium, which are more valuable. So they are quite a mouthful to pronounce.
I love those. I love all those terms that I can't pronounce, but yes, you can very well.
So through our metallurgical test work, we realised that we've got a significant xenotime resource in addition to the monazite within our resource within the Donald project. And we commenced a drilling program to delineate this. Near the end of last year, we announced a revised resource for the mining license, which had a xenotime to monazite ratio of 0.3 to 1. So for every 1 tonne of monazite contained, there's potentially 330,000 tonnes of xenotime. And we don't see any reason why that won't extend to beyond just the mining license, but throughout the entire project. Other milestones that we've been able to achieve last year, we've continued to build on our management team through the appointment of key staff such as Sean Chilius and Greg Bell. Sean's background, it's a strong project background, recently came over from BHP, and he's worked at Anglo, Newcrest, as well as on the services side with Asenco. Greg joined us as CFO in October last year, and previously he was actually the Chief Financial Officer at Mineral Deposits Limited, where they built the Grand Cote mine in Senegal mineral sands. So we've been lucky, I would say, in terms of quality and caliber of people that we've been able to attract. Despite being a relatively junior company, I think that really sort of cements the confidence that our people have in our project and demonstrates how strong this could be. In terms of things that we look forward to, we're now progressing things towards a feasibility study, which is expected to announce, all the works are concluding as we speak and expect to be announced shortly after Q1. We've talked about approvals briefly, Kerry, in terms of we're very advanced in terms of that. We have secondary approvals, which is the mining work plan that we're targeting submission to the government in mid this year and targeting off-takes mid this year as well. All of that hopefully will accumulate and get to by the time we get to the end of this year, we'd be able to achieve not just the feasibility study, not just the off-takes, but also the approvals and the financing to get us into construction and FID.
I was going to ask you about regulatory approvals because it can be tricky at times. So what you've got the mining license, you've got the environmental issues sorted. What are the hurdles that are still to cut? Well, I shouldn't probably call them hurdles. What sort of regulatory approvals are still required to get you into production?
Yeah, so this project's very different compared to others in the local area and surrounds. And the fact that we have a mining license, we have an environmental effects statement from the Victorian government, we have a federal UPBC and license and cultural heritage management plan. What's required now is a work plan. In some places you call it a mining plan, which is risk management. So the EES lays out all the criteria for which we must comply by in terms of our air, noise, dust, and so forth. And what we need to prepare is a set of 27 or 28 management plans to show that we can comply with those limits as they've set out. So, for example, when the winds are blowing, the management plan would be spraying water on the crops and so forth to ensure that the dust is managed. And that's the level of detail that we'll need to go into for the work plan. But the go, no-go zone for the Victorian government for a Victorian project is at the EES stage, and we've gone past that now.
Okay, so you've ticked a lot of boxes there. You said final investment decision end of next year. Is that correct?
Early next year. We're targeting first quarter next year. No, I think we've flown under the radar in that sense in terms of we're actually very close.
Yeah. Why have you flown under the radar for so long, Tiger? Have you just been quietly working away saying, we're going to spring up like a tiger and let everybody know that we're so far down the track and nobody's actually aware of what we're doing? Because you're not an explorer, you are more of a developer at this stage.
Yeah, I think we have flown under the radar. We have continued to do work. Our philosophy has always been, we'll do the work and people will recognise us in due course. Hitting the nail on the head a bit, I think it's important that we are constrained somewhat by liquidity within the stock.
I was going to ask you about that.
The shareholder is had owned 80% and now we own 75% of the stock. I think over time we as a family group are committed to dilute and own less of a bigger pie as opposed to a smaller a bigger portion of a smaller pie.
Let's talk corporate a little bit. You just mentioned that 75% is still owned, I guess, by the family. I need to know, or we need to know, how much cash have you got in the bank? Where's that going to get you to at the moment?
Yeah, we've got $5.7 million in the cash in the bank as of in the last quarter, and it will get us through to the end of feasibility study where we'll announce a detailed project financials to a feasibility study level, a bankable level.
Big picture look at this, if you like, Tiger. A big picture look at when you think you'll get into construction and then, final investment decisions made, you go into construction and then, the holy grail, if you like, is cash flow. What's your time frame, do you think?
Yeah, we're targeting FID Q1 next year, and we're planning an 18-month construction time period. So commissioning Q3 2025 and hopefully cash flow soon thereafter.
All right. Sorry?
I just wanted to make a comment in terms of the big picture. We're only looking at a first phase of development. This project is significant in its size.
Yeah.
And as a emerging company, we have to be capital restrained. So we're developing the project over a number of phases. The first phase has an ore throughput of 7.5 million tonnes per annum, and we plan to duplicate that in subsequent phases. This thing has the potential to be a true monster, given its size. And where there's also downstream opportunities through our history we're very familiar with, that we'll evaluate to encapsulate more value within the company over time, but we'll evaluate them on a case-by-case basis, whether it's synthetic rutile or downstream rare earth processing.
One of the things you said right at the start was that you had two products, the zircon being one, rare earths being another. They are very different markets, are they not? Because a lot of people talk about, we've got rare earths. No, we've got rare earths. Everybody's got rare earths. Why do you think your particular, I want to know about the two products, and I want to know how you're going to develop the rare. Do you develop them separately or together? I just try to get it clear in my mind.
Yeah, so our process flow sheet at the moment has us producing two separate products. Firstly, a heavy mineral concentrate, which will contain the titanium feedstock and the zircon product as a concentrate. And then secondly, we'd have a rare earth element concentrate, which will contain the monazite and the xenotime. We've selected this market approach so that we can send the rare earth materials where it's needed, not just into the Chinese market, but take advantage of the growing number of Western processors that's coming online. We think our rare earth product is rather sexy, given the fact that it has a significant heavy rare earth content, which I talked about in terms of the praseodymium and terbium. And when you look at traditional players such as Linus or emerging ones such as Iluka, they lack that heavy rare earths, which helps make the electric motors more temperature resistant. So by adding a bit of this praseodymium and terbium, the temperature of an electric motor will go from be able to sustain 50 degrees. The permanent magnets can still be functioning at 150 degrees by the addition of the praseodymium and terbium.
So many things to learn, Tiger. You're going to have to come back and have a chat with me again because we're running out of time. If you could just give us 3 reasons why you think now is a great time for people to sit up and take notice of Astron.
Yeah, I think I'll just go back in terms of, firstly, the size of this project. We are the world's largest zircon resource and significant rare earths as well. Secondly, the advanced test work that we have done to date, and the fact that we are very advanced in terms of regulatory approvals and so forth, enabling a quick timetable to production. And finally, we're emerging at a time when there's going to be a supply deficit for both our products, for zircon and for rare earths, and that the development of Donald is sort of a part of that, resolving the supply equation.
And I'm going to add another one in there, even though I only let you have 3. I'm going to add my own one in. You actually, because of the background and your trading background with the Astron Corporation, you know your markets, you know your customers. I reckon that is probably a key thing that Astron have got potentially over a lot of other companies, because you know where the products need to go globally, not just, as you say, into China.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me on Small Caps today, Tiger. Come back and give us some updates as you go along in 2023. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, there you go, to a massive project. As Tiger said a moment ago, it's a monster, but they've done a lot of work. They've been flying under the radar. You heard it here first on Small Caps. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, Tiger.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for having us.